Away from Nigeria, UNESCO says radio is a powerful medium for celebrating humanity in all its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. At the global level, radio remains the most widely consumed medium. Radio had been commended for being the most accessible medium in shaping a society's experience of diversity and arena for all voices to speak out, be represented, and be heard.
40 years after Zimbabwe's independence, the first 6 community radio stations were licensed. 8 more were licensed in 2021, bringing the total to 14 licensed community radio stations. Now, the theme for this year was Radio and Trust, and this happened on the 13th of February 2022. Now, we do understand the importance of radio in terms of giving out information, credible information to its listeners. Joining us from Harare is our correspondent, Lala Ngwenya. Good morning to you, Lala. We also have the Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations chairperson, Pelagia Kapuya, who will be joining us very shortly on the program.
Well, celebrating World Radio Day is one thing that a lot of people will definitely find interesting. Take, for instance, like myself, I started off from radio sometime back in 2002, 2003, and still counting. And I still do radio, and I still love radio regardless of the fact that I'm on TV
now.
Lala joins us. Lala, tell us your experience. First of all, how are you doing on a Monday morning?
Well, I'm doing fine, but I see I'm off tune. Oluchi is in the love colors. She's wearing the love colors, and I decided to go the opposite direction.
All right. So how's Zimbabwe celebrate? Yeah, go on.
Yes, radio has played a very crucial role in development. Like in the case of Zimbabwe, radio was used as one of the most important tools. Prior to independence, during the liberation struggle, the messages were being sent via the radio. And when our old people tell us the stories, they say they would sit closely to the radio just to listen to the messages coming from the bush, where the fighters were, where the liberation veterans were training, and they would send these messages back home via radio, and these were from either Mozambique or Zambia. So radio has played quite a crucial role. Even on Independence Day, when you go through some of the archives, you see how people in rural areas were glued to the radio just to listen to that first independence speech by the late President Robert Gabriel Mugabe. So, it has played an amazing role. And for me, because I'm in radio right now, I enjoy it a lot, and I love how radio has evolved over the years. Radio has managed to bring and to incorporate digitalization and all the social media platforms. People now can stream live radio channels. There is your radio garden where you can listen to any radio in the world, and radio still manages to capture, people's attention, and just to listen to someone else's voice is quite an experience.
It definitely is. It definitely is, especially with the fact that you have to stay in that cubicle yourself, start to think. Nobody sees you. You're just alone, and you start to have this imaginary thought of somebody listening to you, what the person looks like, what the person could be doing. And then we also have the case of, oh goodness, he or she has got an amazing voice. But when you get to meet the ankles in person, you're like, really? Is this what you look like? Okay, I see.
Well, they say radio is for the voice and TV is for the face.
Oh, I see. But tell us, how's Zimbabwe looking at this for the fact that you have over 14 licensed community radio stations, from inception, looking at the fact that since you gained independence?
Okay, so, we may say this is a milestone, but it is a delayed milestone because the first 6 community radio stations were only licensed in 2020. That was 40 years after independence. And, these are some of the discourse that goes on around in media circles, like how did Zimbabwe take so long to license community radio stations when during the liberation struggle and prior to independence, radio was such an important tool that was being used to relay message. Then why take so long to license? Well, the questions, such a question is answered. There are so many answers to that question. Some of them are the harsh media regulation laws, and a shrinked media space as well. So there was just so much happening that did not give freedom to radio. And all these radio stations that were there, they were being owned by the state. Zimbabwe started licensing other commercial radios around 2005, going upwards to add on to what we may call diversity. But there's still so much that needs to be done in Zimbabwe in terms of really freedom in the media space.
Right.
I agree.
You just spoke about freedom of press in Zimbabwe. You've also told us about evolution, how it has evolved over the years. But can you tell us about journalists, the people who are behind the microphone and radio? Can you tell us how well recognized or accepted they are in the country of Zimbabwe?
Well, they are like celebrities. We've got some that have done so well, and over the years they've moved to other countries. They've moved to South Africa, they've moved to Canada, they've moved to the UK. We have veteran disc jockeys, DJs that moved to the UK, the likes of Kevin Nube, the likes of Ezra Chisasanda, the likes of the late Peter Jones. So we've had quite a number, Eric Knight, John Peary, there are quite a number of them that moved from the Zimbabwe radio to the UK. And these guys were doing so well. And we cannot talk about the success of radio in Zimbabwe and leave out these names. Even modern day, we still have disc jockeys that are doing pretty well, and some radio journalists that are also doing very well. But the other interesting thing is how radio has evolved and embraced social media. So now we have live stream radio that is online. They may not necessarily have frequency modulation, but they are operating online. For example, Community Radio Harare was established in 2006. However, till today, they use alternative media platforms like Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, and also visits to communities where they gather information from the communities. So radio and people in radio have managed to come up with ways to continue the radio life, continuing.
That's what they call the new media, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to blend radio using social media. I mean, during my time, the only thing we had was High Five, if you remember. I don't know if High Five was used in Zimbabwe. Yeah. And then you also had Facebook that just started off. And then now you do have radio being linked to
multiple
YouTube
platforms,
and so on and so on. So it's like a multiple streaming service at the same time. But I wish we had more time. We could also talk about one very important aspect that radio has affected in terms of the political space. Recall that radio is often used to announce coups in Africa. In Nigeria here, one of the coups that took place, it was actually announced at the radio station, one of the first radio stations, and it was an announcement, and everyone was like, what is going on? Then there was indeed a coup, and we've seen that happen as well in other African countries. But anyway, it's been a great sport talking to you, Lala Ngwenya, all the way from Harare, Zimbabwe. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
And happy Valentine's.
Oh, yeah. Happy Valentine's. Oh, I just popped.